Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting show of Afrolynk Expert Live. My name is Rachedi, and tonight our topic is ecosystem resilience and partnerships. Tonight in the house, we've got Soumeya Rachedi from Digital Africa. Soumeya, welcome to Afrolynk Expert Live.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay. And we also have Koffi Nomenyo from, I want to get this correctly, AGYPL. Am I correct?
LP, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Welcome, Koffi.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Yes. Yes. To our viewers watching all over the world, thank you for joining us on another episode of Afrolynk Expert Live. Please feel free to ask questions. Today our topic is very interesting. It's all about partnerships. So for those that are looking for collaborations and partnerships within the Africa tech and entrepreneurship ecosystem, we have the right people for you today. Let me start off with Soumeya. Soumeya, please just give us a brief about who is Soumeya, as well as what Digital Africa does.
Hi everyone. Digital Africa is a French organization that was launched 2 years ago in 2018 by President Emmanuel Macron towards creating value and supporting African tech entrepreneurs. When President Macron announced Digital Africa, it was announced with a fund of 65 million euros to support these entrepreneurs. 50 million that are still managed by Proparco, and 15 million called Facilité by AFD, that was and still is managed toward and channeled toward like key actors of the ecosystem. Digital Africa is going through a very bigger structuration right now because the team got bigger and we are going through a very deep transformation. We just launched 4 pilot programs. Our vision is, the mission is really to support tech entrepreneurs in designing and deploying resilient and inclusive innovation. So basically, how do we support as an ecosystem actors the emergence of these innovations today? It is today, more than ever, more data-driven. We focus a lot on open source, open data, and digital skills for development that are very key in our development. And in the 4 key pilot program we just launched, we have a program called Data for Digital Africa. It's an open data infrastructure that is aimed at enabling entrepreneurs and tech entrepreneurs or tech solutions in their emergence to access data, because that's one of the most difficult things we have to deal with as an entrepreneur in Africa. The second one is Africa Next Round, and it's more about facilitating co-investment and innovative, fast-growing companies and startups in Africa. So the pilot program was launched, and we're still working on it with other partners. And we have the resilience digital-africa.co, which is our brand new website, and the aim is more to have a media that showcases a very different narrative of what's going on in Africa. So it's a website you can go check. We showcase solutions of African solutions, vernacular creativity, innovation, and what's going on the ground to basically tell a very different story about innovation in Africa. And the fourth and the last one is Resilient Summer School. And it is a capacity building program towards really building skills and supporting African entrepreneurs in that area. So we engage our partners into creating specific contents and organizing masterclasses. It's going to be launched next week. So the first session will be on the 7th of July. And it's about giving access to expertise, mentoring, networking with other entrepreneurs. And that's like it's a break from a bigger program called the DA Campus, Digital Africa Campus. So that's basically the programs we have been running. And it is just the beginning, I guess, because our goals are the larger, broader goals are more focused onto like 3 axes, supporting not only startups, but also ecosystem actors and players. And then on a more macro level, advocacy and for data sovereignty and advocacy for better regulatory frameworks to support entrepreneurs.
Okay, thank you. That's quite detailed. I want to talk more later on as well about the resilience program. I think it's we also have quite a number of people who have also been asking us already about that offline before. So yeah, so we'll discuss that more at length. Koffi, over to you. So just tell us a brief about who is Koffi, as well as what is AGYLLP about. Also starting with the initial stand for this.
Yeah, so thank you very much. Yeah, my name is Koffi. I'm the co-founder of AGYLP, and AGYLP stands for Africa Germany Young Leaders Program. And basically, we are a new organization based in Germany, established in January of 2020. So our goals are we have 4 pillars that are very important for us. The first one is establishing a network of aspiring leaders. The second one will be connecting African emerging leaders to their German peers. The third one would be building bridges between leaders from Africa and Germany for substantial cooperation. And the last one will be promoting intercultural understanding between young leaders. So the people that we are trying to reach out to are young leaders, with also companies, private enterprises, as well as politicians from both regions. So how are we trying to accomplish our objectives? It is through cooperation on equal footing, close links with the African and German private sector, with prestigious network, and convening African and German emerging leaders up to 40 years. So that is what we are trying to do, basically. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm happy that I still qualify as one of the African leaders. I'm still under 40. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Soumeya, over to you. I want to go more specifically in terms of your role within Digital Africa. Could you please take us through what your day-to-day role is, and also in terms of the vision, pushing forward the vision of Digital Africa? What is Soumeya doing? Oh, sorry, you can't hear me.
Yes, sorry, I was just I was saying I was also under 40. And
okay.
from an African background, so I was born in Algeria and grew up in Algeria, and came to France as a first-generation immigrant to study in France. I think it's important also because that gives, connection also to your program, Koffi. So for my role in Digital Africa, it has evolved a lot since I arrived. So when I arrived in March 2018, I was the first hire of Digital Africa. So I was more focused on operations, and it was a very broad role. And now I'm focusing more on partnerships. So in my first year at Digital Africa, well, I've been focusing on growing and building this portfolio of partners towards building or creating value for African entrepreneurs. The scope was broader. We were not that focused on the data-driven or tech entrepreneurs. It was broader, more focused into events and connections and building communities and supporting the ecosystem in a way that we still do today. But the new part is probably that the partnerships now are more engaged into content creation and supporting entrepreneurs in a different way. So basically, if we put the African entrepreneur or tech entrepreneur or innovative entrepreneur in the middle of our reflection and problem-solving mind, and we think, okay, what do they need? What are the obstacles they're going through today? And how can we support them? And we're not just imagining the needs, it's more about who are the actors who are interacting today with these entrepreneurs and know the needs, and how can we gather and constitute like this federation of actors that are who are creating this value and supporting in the most meaningful way. Basically, it's the definition of platform, but I'm not thinking of a platform as a tech tool, but more like a physical platform of gathering actors who are experts in their they have like proper expertise in the area, and see how we can multiply the effects of their work while working together. And that's the role of a catalyst, and that still is a role of Digital Africa. But beyond the role of catalyst is also how can we be leaders and into creating these programs, you know, the digital, like giving access to data or giving access to content or telling a different story or managing or bringing together actors who are telling these stories, but give them access to a platform they didn't have before because of the broad access and the privilege of Digital Africa as this huge organization that can come and give, you know, connect organizations that are not used to dialogue and talk together. So that has been basically my role, just interact with people and reuniting these organizations around the same table while they weren't used to do it before. Often days.
Thank you. I think you raised an important point that has also become very valid, especially now in this COVID pandemic and situation. The issue of access to data. I don't. Okay. In what sense are you? Maybe if you can allude to that, because maybe I might have gotten the wrong way. Can you just please allude more to what data are you talking about?
So the data we're talking about, Digital Africa, is open source and cheap data that is accessible for an entrepreneur from the beginning of his or her journey as an entrepreneur to the end, to the scaling up part, from ideation to the end. So the use cases is, I'm an entrepreneur in agriculture, or yes, let's go for agriculture in Abidjan. And I need maybe spatial data or access to data on what's going on, you know, in the ground without having the specific technical words, but I can just say, okay, I need this information, like technical information, where can I get it? And then there's also the data around the market, very not obsolete data, like recent data about how's the market in the area, where can I prototype, where can I test my idea, where can I interact with my future clients, where can I identify my competition, etc., and to have my market study done with relevant data to make my model more viable than initially expected. And that's a challenge in Africa today.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
That's a huge one of the obstacles. So the challenge of our MVP is more to go into, you know, the proper and relevant use cases and build the value around the needs of the entrepreneurs. And that's the work that our team of data analysts and engineers are working on.
Thank you very much. So to all entrepreneurs and startups watching from the African continent, I think this is a very important point in terms of access to data, in terms of content creation, in terms of that Digital Africa takes you from ideation level up to the scaling up. So this is very important. Now, Koffi, you have quite an interesting background, and I want to go back to your background in the sense that there are things that have motivated you up to now be a co-founder of your organization. Mm-hmm. And I also reading up and also seeing from your own CVs that I wanted to take a personal experience from yourself to say, with the institutions and partnerships that you have worked within, I know you have, if you could just tell us in brief, the various institutions you have worked with within Germany, and how at each level it pushed you more towards achieving, seeing the value of partnership.
Yes, thank you again, Kumar. Well, I worked with the GIZ, which is the Corporation for Development in Germany. I also work with the KfW. I'm actually working with the KfW at the DEG or DEG. Before I joined the DEG, I was with KfW Development Bank in Frankfurt. So I'm quite into the development world, so you can say. And I'm also doing my master's in international development studies. And my co-founder Emmanuel has the same background, and we actually met at the GIZ. I can say for myself that the way Germany as a country, but also German people are connecting to Africa and African people is changing. And I know that there is a lot of challenges and misunderstandings until today. But what I can see from my own personal experience and from my background as a professional working in the development field, I can say that things are changing. In so far that also the German public understands that the way things has been done for the last 50 years cannot be continued until today. So people are really trying to focus on what are the countries and the partnerships in Africa that can be both beneficial for Germany as a country, but also for the African young people as well. So the partnerships or the way Germany thinks about partnerships today, I can say, is that they are more focusing on the people that or the countries that are overachievers. So we can see that now there is an emphasis on the quality over quantity. So what that means is partnership today in the German context is we are looking for countries and as well as companies that can really bring value into everyday life of all African. And what we are trying to do in at EdgeUp is to build on that ground, to reach out to those young African and German that are professionals in their field and that are willing to see really a change in the way we are interacting with each other. So that's why I think it's very important to not only have the politicians talking, but also have people who are doing business talking as well. So what we have seen is that in a lot of these conferences and the expert talks, we don't see a lot of young African people. And if we see them, it is always the same face that we see. So, but there is a lot of diversity, especially in Germany as well, from people with African background that are working in so many different sectors. And those people can be brought together. And also in the sense of not only talking about Africa as developing continent, but as a business case, you know. So I think this is really changing. Seeing African countries as business case is really something that is changing also in the development world. So we don't speak much. We are trying not to speak as much as about development, but about businesses. So that's what we are trying to do, to bring the both world together. So that is something new that that I can say from my own perspective.
Thank you very much. It's also interesting that you, on this one end, Koffi, speaking from a German perspective, and we also have Soumeya speaking from more of a French perspective. And it's also nice that at the end of the day, Africa is the beneficiary of all these initiatives that are coming from Europe. So I think that is also very commendable. So Soumeya, I know you want to add on something onto that. And as you add, then I would also want to take you to your next question as you add onto what he said. After you add on to what you say, maybe you can also then tell us, want to go deeper into our question about ecosystem resilience and partnerships, especially now with what was happening with the COVID crisis. What do you think has been the impact within the ecosystem? So maybe you can go ahead, add to what he said, then also then answer that, please.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's very complementary to what Koffi was saying, and the addition I wanted to So I want to start maybe on a conceptual level by the definition of resilience, because it's a word that we have been using a lot and hearing about a lot lately. And to go beyond the buzzword and the empty shell, we can, it's a trap and we can easily go into it. Resilience is really the ability of an individual or a community or an organization to respond and adapt to both impermanence, to change and change, and to also like sudden and brutal disruptions that can cause trauma basically on the individual level. And it can also talk in terms of trauma at an organizational level and a business level. And the idea is that resilience is adapt, but not only in a survival mode, not only to survive and go feed our families, but to reach after the crisis this level of innovation and creativity, this space where we can create and innovate again despite of the crisis. And that's completely different from the way we even hear and speak about Africa. And that's how it takes me to what you were saying, Koffi. It's like, not even changing the narrative about Africa is not stop and talking on humanitarian and development terms, because that's still important and the crisis is still here and people are still hungry in some places. But changing the narrative is about reconsidering our roles as French diaspora African people on individual levels, or even French development organizations that are funded by development agencies, or all these structures that have like a background and a baggage and a past, but say that, okay, the role is now shifting and changing. And that has been very deliberate on the political side in France. Like the relationship with Africa is changing and it is different now. And President Macron mentioned it on like many times. The speeches is like, how do we reinvent this relationship? And in Digital Africa, we translate it in terms of this platform I was talking about. Like, how can we give the mic to African initiatives, businesses, entrepreneurs, creatives, all these actors that are already shaping change in Africa? They're not waiting for us. It's already happening with or without us. What we are doing and the change that we can bring, the support, is this role of catalyst. Like, okay, we can create content that emphasize what's happening in the ground. How can we support? How can we help? What can we bring to the table to basically support this emergence of the flow of creativity of the African youth and the African women and the African people on a very broad level in the 54 countries. So that's how I articulate these both. And for the COVID-19, from the COVID-19 perspective, it's basically the same. The reactions, and I think we're going to talk about it later, but the reactions that have been organized or orchestrated by African actors. How can we help and provide content and support and funding for them to grow faster and scale up faster and better?
Okay, thank you very much. Koffi, how important is the role of young people to be involved in partnerships, to be involved within the ecosystem in terms of what role should the young people be playing? And is it not just a pipe dream? Is it something that can be translated into reality?
Yes, thank you for the question. And I think that's very important because a lot of times people ask me these questions. And you can imagine we went to to quite a few embassies in Berlin. We talked to ambassadors and people working at the embassy, and the question always was, they say, we find it very interesting what you are trying to do, and we are 100% behind you, but tell us, what is the impact that you guys can really have with your organization? Because there are so many organizations, even in Germany, that are trying to do what you are doing. So what is different about you guys? And my personal answer to that question is, well, our impact depends on the ability of actors like embassies to want to play a role, So my answer is, what can young people bring to the table? So, well, young people can bring a lot to the table. So the three of us are experts on our fields. just for an example. So today we are gathering here live on Facebook, speaking to our fellow young people that are listening to us as well. And you guys from Afrolynk has created a platform for yourself to promote what you think is important. And I think the way that we are trying to, or what I want to say is that we need to create a platform for ourselves at first. Nobody's going to just hand us the mic and say, speak for yourself. We need to be organized first. And this is good because in Germany, we have a lot of organizations with other focus, digital focus or human rights focus, or even tech. So what I think we have to understand is we are all on the same boat. So even if you are working at the embassy or you are working at the KfW or elsewhere, if you want a change in Africa, you can do it by yourself. So what I think is really important is what kind of partnerships are we building? So with whom are we working? And what kind of platforms are we present on? So for me, it's very important to see that partnerships is not always about going with your best friend or so on. It's really about choosing those organizations that are already doing things and that are doing in a right way, that have a platform already established, but where you can also add value. I can give you a concrete example. I don't want to name any names, but there are big companies, big international and German companies that are interested in working with us. So their stake is yes, we are multi-billion company, we have a lot of money, but when it comes to Africa and when it comes to our presence in Africa, we have noticed that some doors are still closed because of the history that we have. So what they want is really to have someone that speaks the language that people are speaking in Africa, that looks like the people that are in Africa, that is young, and also that can bring something to the table. So I think this combination is very attractive to those companies that are already established in Africa, so that they can also see young people as as value adding people, you know. So and I think the question about impact, what kind of impact young people can have in Africa, should always be answered with, well, how important is it for you to have young people around? So if you can answer this question with very important, then the impact of young people will be zero. You know, so it all depends on how the organizations are willing, or in how far are they willing to give young people really the stage. And I think young people are not waiting; they are already doing, and they are already accomplishing, and they are already in positions that can be seen as leadership position. So the only thing that we are lacking right now is the ability of some organizations, and big organizations as well, to see that as an opportunity. And for that, we need this continuous conversation about what it is that young people should bring on the table. Not only African, but also German. So that's our approach on that matter.
Okay, thank you. Soumeya, do you want to add on to what you said? Oh.
I like the idea of bringing something to the table. It's around the concept of leadership and how do we own our own stories to shape the narrative that is being told in Africa. And it made me think of the work we have been doing with Data for Digital Africa lately. And the conversation is still ongoing in the team, but one of the main issues is how can we put the data that is in the hand of big corporations and make it accessible to startups. And this is one of the issues at stake still this making the data available, because it is costly, but it is here. If we gather it in the right platform and make it intelligible enough, and make analysis, etc., accessible to entrepreneurs, we can create new ways of collaborations between these young African leaders we are talking about, with maybe even I don't know, corporations who are willing to sit at the table, but in a very different way that we considered before, in a way that where they are not only in support, but in a way where they can make space and hold space for the experience of the most concerned people by the issues they're talking about. Because what we are used to is like big institutions talking for other people without assessing the needs in the right way. And maybe the shift that is happening today and that we are supporting is just sitting, laying back and just hearing what's happening and say, okay, how can we help? How can we assist? How can we collaborate and make new collaborations possible in maybe, hopefully, a revolutionary way?
Yeah, I also like what Koffi alluded to in terms of that their organizations are also supporting they're saying we can support you as young African leaders. It's also something that on our own continent, it's difficult. The rise of young African leaders is something that the ruling elite, so to speak, and are against. I don't want to go political, but it's something that is there. And that is one reason why, as Africa, we are not advancing at the pace we are supposed to advance, because the innovation and the energy that the young people have is not being used in the right way. That's why I was asking to say, do you think this can have an impact? But I think we are going in the right direction if we can be able to nurture and mentor young African leaders jointly, because we also say in Afrolynk, we say that it's also important to empower the young people so that they can be able to change political will in terms by them being empowered themselves. Because it's difficult also to change political will when yourself you're not empowered. It's very difficult. So
may I add something?
I would love to say something.
I think what is important also to notice is I understand that in Africa, as a young leader in Africa, it is very much impossible for you to sit at the table that you think you need to sit at. But at the same time, I want also to stress out that, as I said, the system that even the political system in many African countries is not designed for young people to sit at the table. So we have to understand the way systems are built and the way we can change them. And the interaction I think that we need to have is to think about platforms that are beyond the traditional way of interacting. So for example, if you take a political party in, I don't know, I can give example of my country, Togo, for example. The way political parties are set up, and that this is where leaders are coming from, right? In a political sphere. So the way political parties are is, if you know somebody who knows somebody, you are someone. So it doesn't matter what you can do, what your capacity of thinking is, what your logical skills are. It doesn't matter. All that matters is who do you know, so that you can be part of this party. So I think what we always need to remember is, at what kind of table do you want to sit at? You have to ask yourself, what kind of table do you want to sit at, so we don't fight the wrong fight, you know? So I just want to let it like this, so I don't go too political, but you know what I mean.
So Soumeya, please,
in my opinion and perspective, it's not about the table only we want to sit in. It's also about the social change we want to create, and that's through innovation. And I'm pretty sure, in my experience through African interacting with the youth in Algeria, Abidjan, South Africa, and Kenya, and Ethiopia, is just or Lagos, or even, you know, just seeing these leaders. They're already leaders, and it's not about seating of the old people's table. We're not talking about the old ways. We're talking about inventing our Africa, the new Africa. And I would be very careful of using, especially as a diaspora person, like the word of from here still we want to empower people there. Like, you know, just go into this dynamic where we're still in this way where we want to mentor and help, and like the expertise always goes from here to there. And I'm not sure it's I wouldn't support that way of doing anymore. What I would support is more, okay, what's going on, in which way we can support them, and not getting involved even in the strictly political side. And I think it's very political to engage in creativity and innovation. I think it's very political to engage in social change and say, okay, we support use cases and new solutions, and we showcase African success stories, and we give access to data, and we plead for data sovereignty. But it's basically give back sovereignty not only to the people but also, to the entrepreneurs, and say, okay, there is a way to create, and we can't do it on our own on an individual level. It's easier if we're interconnected, and this interconnectedness grows bigger if we make it, with the rest of the world. And that's the way I plead for, just not repeat the same conversations we've been having about our governments and stuff like that. But that doesn't mean that we do not act on a regulatory level and say, okay, we need better regulation on this, and we need more responsibility and liability on the climate change situation and on migration and stuff like that. There is like specific positions. It's not about sitting on a table for me. It's more about, okay, as an actor of change, what are you willing to do? What are you acting on? And how can I support you in making your change happen? Because you are the best person, that is able to talk about what's going on and the needs on the ground,
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. I just want to go, usually it's our tradition that we also give the shout outs to our viewers who are watching. So I think this conversation has been so interesting. I absolutely forgot. But guys, we are not forgetting you. Thank you for tuning in. We'll start with Verena Rentrop in Helsinki. Hi, Verena. How are you? She's asking about the link. I think this is the website link for Digital Africa. I think the Afrolynk team behind the scenes will be able to send that link to you, Verena. Thank you very much. We have
there are two websites. Can I just mention there are two links?
Okay, you can text them, then we can send them to them. Okay. Thank you. Then we have Obada Milola. She's watching from Berlin. Thank you. We have Tofara Chokera says greetings from Zimbabwe. Soumeya, quite impressive intro. Thank you. We have Sam Tima, as always, our partner from Cometa in South Africa. He says greetings, colleagues watching from South Africa. We have Blessmo Mudenge, greetings from Zimbabwe. Thank you, Blessmo, for tuning in. We have Alan Goncalves. I hope I said that correctly. He says he's supporting Soumeya Rachedi with a high five. I just wanted to go to Sam also has an interesting perspective. Says the emerging African entrepreneurs are assertive in wanting to enter global markets and partnering with investors in Africa. We are ready and excited about such progressive partnerships. Thank you, Sam, for that feedback. We also have Sophia Ludmila. Says important point of emphasizing the role of ecosystem enablers as catalysts. We have thank you, Moses, Sam again, Julia, and Wendell Peterson. Guys, it's an interesting topic, and going back, I want to come back to you again, Soumeya. Just give me a second. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yes, sorry about that. I was just I had to go back and check on my notes. From a Digital Africa perspective, what do you think is the importance of partnerships within the African entrepreneurship space? I mean, I've also gone through the things that you do. That you also promote African innovation and entrepreneurship through collaborate initiative for African entrepreneurs, built through a new Africa-French relationship. I want to take it more onto the ground to say, how do you engage in partnerships? Is it in terms of country basis? Is it in terms of sector basis? What are the key things for Digital Africa in that? in that aspect?
So there are different levels in partnerships, and we have different categories basically of partners. There is, first of all, Digital Africa is was created as a consortium of 10 organizations. So we have 10 founding members. Amongst them, there is Gen Africa. AfriLabs is a founding member. Joko Labs is a founding member as an African organization. And on the French side, there is AFD as a founding member. It's not only our supporter. We're not only empowered by AFD, but it's also a founding member of Digital Africa with Proparto. And CFI, La Ferme Digitale. I'm so sorry, I forgot a few names, but this basically we have 10 founding members. But we have also then partners with whom we have MOUs, and we function on a memorandum of understanding level. And then we have a more like a broader way of interacting or partnering with people, which is more like an alliance or constellation of actors. You can go and see it on the website, and it's different. Mostly African initiatives, also European initiatives, and what they have in common is that they support African entrepreneurs in very different ways. Some of them are focused on a sectoral level, even in the founding members. So we have agriculture has been one of our sector of focus, mobility and transportation was another one. La Ferme des Mobilités is a founding member, and other actors. And so we have the creative ICC, like creative businesses are also one of not in priority focus, but it has been very thriving from our partners. So we've been collaborating. At the beginning, it was more when it started Digital Africa. When I joined a year ago, it was more on an event level in terms of visibility and co-branding. Now it's collaboration on producing content. We have also the partners related to the fund, and because 65 million that were operated by AFD and Proparco have been operated by different actors like Green Tech, who are like most come from there. Green Tech is one of our most important partners. AfriLabs, ABAN, African Business Angel Network, Mercy Corps, Investment and Partners, and I'm probably forgetting one of them still, but they are our core partners that are operating the fund, the Digital Africa Fund that has been initiated and announced by Macron 2 years ago, by President Macron 2 years ago. So that's basically the constellation, different categories from the bottom to up. We have also programs like ELIP in Algeria, Entrepreneurship, Leadership and Innovation Program. We have hackathons like Code Against COVID, for example. So it goes from the programs to the biggest institutions. Smart Africa is also a partner. Smart Africa is a gathering of 30 African heads of states who work together towards building an African market under the leadership of one. So this is very broad, and for each category we have a different way of operating, and we are still working on the methodologies of collaboration and the tools we can put together to make it happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I like the figure because I also read it as well. The 65 million for Africa. Guys, wherever you are, if you're a startup or an entrepreneur in Africa, I think there's a possibility for you to get a piece of the cake there. So please get in touch with Digital Africa. Find your own space, find your niche market in whatever you're doing as well. I think it's also, sometimes we're not just doing this for the fun of just coming on live. It's also about information, because information is very important. Some of this information that comes through to you, please be able to act upon it. You don't know where it might be able to take you. Over to you, Koffi. Yes. Can you give us examples of how your organization, I know you guys have just started, but examples of how your organization has been able to forge strong partnerships?
Yes.
Up to date.
Yes. So I think with Soumeya is a little bit different because she's working with the big ones, and I just want also to mention that in Germany we also have a lot of initiatives that are going in the same direction as the French colleagues are doing with Africa Grow. as well with the KfW and Allianz, which is also from the German government. So it is also focusing on financing SMEs in Africa. And I think the fund, which is managed by the KfW, has, I think, about €1 billion there, and they are financing private equity and VCs companies. From there, they are trying to invest in SMEs in Africa. And I think a lot of those companies that are receiving the money are in the tech business. And so that might also be some information that some of our people that are alive might be interested in what the German side is doing. And now up to Egypt, what we are doing is we are a new organization, but nevertheless we have quite a few example of partnerships that we think are very interesting. The first one would be the Africa Leadership Academy in South Africa, which is a partner of ours. We are also linked up with some foundations in Germany that are willing to cooperate with us, like the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung. Myself, I'm a recipient of the Konrad Adenauer Foundation's scholarship as well. We have the Körber Stiftung, which organizes a young leaders program with the Munich security conferences, and those are some examples that I can give. We also have the Global Diplomacy Lab in Berlin with the German Foreign Office as a stakeholder in it, with whom we are also we have a cooperation, and because of of course you guys from Afrolynk, we because of COVID-19 we couldn't do our kickoff meeting that we thought we could have had back in April, but it wasn't possible. But in terms of our partnerships, we try to have partners in the sphere of politics. For example, like the Hello Africa project group from the CDU-CSU fraction in Germany, which is a conservative one. And we also have the Baden Unternehmergespräche, which is a highly interesting council of big companies. All the DAX companies, so all the 30 biggest companies in Germany are there, and we have a cooperation with them. So those are some of the links we were able to connect in such a short period of time. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You seem to be well connected. That is a great indicator of of how valuable what you guys are doing is as well. When such organizations also agree to collaborate with you. Soumeya, I think I ran away a bit from part of our topic, the ecosystem resilience part. So yeah, just going to that, as we're running out of a bit of time, but yeah, I wanted to ask, can you please give us solid examples of ecosystem resilience that you have seen recently, so that to a layman, to someone who doesn't understand what we are talking about, they can also be able to fully grasp what ecosystem resilience means in practice.
During COVID, we could see different ways to adapt it. We said, like, the digital part took over. We invented new programs, new ways of doing, new ways of interacting with other people. And within Africa, the communities I've been interacting with, it's been there was a struggle of the cost of data, like having access to internet, and the cost of internet infrastructure. that's still an issue, and it's going to be for a while until we reinvent a new way of accessing internet, and internet access is still a challenge. But for the ones and the part of the people who have access to internet, they have been extremely creative. So we've been collaborating with Code Against COVID, so CAC they call, and they organized this hackathon against COVID, completely dedicated to tech. They're creating now a media. It's called CAC Media, Le Mag. So they're based in Dakar, and they had this hackathon during the COVID, and they promoted, and I mean, the hackathon is amazing, and the solutions that came up were really good. And it was like different kind of startups, tech-driven startups who were offering solutions and developing solutions to basically organize or adapt collectively to this crisis. And resilience was mentioned a lot by the startups, by the people. Resilience was a topic. How are we adapting together through this? So you can go check Code Against COVID. They're amazing. I love the team. Also on the website, the Resilience website, we showcased a platform, South African platform called Zindi. They gathered, it's a platform of 14,000 African scientists. 14K, we're talking about 14K people during COVID in such a short amount of time. And these 14,000 African scientists were committed and engaged into developing local solutions to react to the COVID crisis. And that's, for me, is what resilience look like. Like, how are we adapting, but not only in survival mode? How can we, from a place where we do not even have, some people do not have access to medical assistance or science, etc., to having access to 14K scientists, in the same place, and having access to this kind of knowledge. And that's huge leapfrog. Like, that's disruption at the best level. And there's also K-Lab, we showcased also on the resilient parts. K-Lab, they're based in Cap Rodis, if you watch us. He's based in Kigali, and it's a place where it's a community place, and entrepreneurs gather there. And I mean, all spaces where community can gather, even they continued the work, and that's how we see that community is not about the place. They continued the work digitally during the lockdown. And it's the same for Refao. Refao is the network of Fab Labs in West Africa. So they've been working a lot on prototyping, maker spaces, etc., and all Francophone Africa. And they've been supporting into communicating information, supporting entrepreneurs, helping entrepreneurs in crisis. And they adapted, the model completely adapted. Same for K-Lab. And the last one, I would think of I4 Policy. They are our partners. We did a survey together. We've been working a lot on assessing the needs of the entrepreneurs and the impact of the COVID crisis on the models and the businesses. The results are crazy. You can go check their website as well. Information is really good. And they led a campaign with UNESCO called Don't Go Viral. So if you go to hashtag Don't Go Viral, you can see African artists singing against basically fake news and promoting like new ways of doing during crisis. And the video clips are great. The music is really nice, and you can dance on it. And it's, it's a different narrative. You can just see these African artists, talking about COVID in this context, and we can see, despite the crisis, just going back to this space of innovation and creativity. And I love just showcasing these stories.
Thank you very much. I mean, in crisis comes opportunity, in crisis comes resilience, and it's great to see that across the continent, people have held up their heads high. People have done amazing stuff. Koffi, I mean, as a parting shot, as last words, I want to put you now in your role as a young African leader. What would you say, given the role of the organizations that you've worked with and for, to say to a young entrepreneur watching in Africa, what message do you have for them in terms of within the whole ecosystem, the opportunities that they are there for them? What message do you have?
Yes, I think what is important to say is that there is a lot of action in Germany towards Africa and towards SMEs. But I think the problem is, again, the information. So what kind of information, or where can SMEs get the right information, and So I think what we are trying to do with our organization is to have a platform, either a conference or online or digital conferences, where we can speak on specific issues, for example, related to financing. And on our board, we also have a member from the KFW who is working there, and he works for the department, for the economic department of the KFW, especially with in North Africa, so Morocco, Algeria, and so on. This is his focus. But again, he has a lot of insights of what KFW can finance in terms of SMEs, and he has a great insight of what the German part is willing to do in general. So what we are trying to do is to have someone like that on our board is amazing. So with that alone, this is an asset that we have as an organization, and we want to put this asset out. So the next step that we are trying to do is how to organize our people so that a lot of people that need this information also get them. And I think this is the most important step that we need to take, is how to get those information that we have to those SMEs that are in need. And I would say that people should stay connected, should stay tuned on what Egypt is going to do next. And this is exactly what we are trying to do in order to empower those SMEs, to have experts that are working on the field, to have one-on-one talk with those SMEs. But I can say for now that Germany is trying to do a lot for SMEs. I'm not sure that the way that those things are set up is always right. I have to say that. But I think that the effort is amazing, and you can also see a great shift comparing to what has been done 5 years ago or even 10 years ago. But I think as Egypt, we need to go online and give those information away. But I think you need to have an intelligent way to do that.
Okay. Thank you very much, Koffi. Just before Soumeya, you speak or you answer the last question, Sam says, Kumbirai, I think that Afrolynk should put together a database of all Africa-based and Europe-based organizations with focus on entrepreneurship, trade, and investment relations to Africa and Europe. Sam, yeah, I think my boss is watching and he can be able to see that. I think this is something that can be able to be done. And I think there was an important thing that he mentioned as well. Says the success of Afrolynk Expert Live and its partners initiatives will be measured and judged on tangible evidence of entrepreneurship projects on the ground in Africa, Germany, France, and the entire EU. Let us measure action, please. The African entrepreneurs must come to subsequent Afrolynk Expert Live and update us on projects and partnerships they have started as a result of having attended this. How is that? I totally agree with you, Sam. I think it's also the impact. That is what is very important. And I think when we bring on board such partners as Digital Africa, such partners as Koffi, it's also, we're going towards that in terms of collaborations, in terms of partnerships, getting together, so that at the end of the day, to be honest, we are only measured by the impact that comes from what we do. So Soumeya, in conclusion, because we had a lot of questions about this. You've recently announced the Resilient Summer School starting in July. Please give us just more information about that, and how can viewers who are watching also be able to join that?
Okay, thank you. So the Resilience Summer School is a pilot program, like the Africa Next Round and all the programs I announced. So for now, it's going to scale in the next few months. And for now, we have this Resilient Summer School that is going to be composed in 2 axes. So we have 2 components. One is a free masterclass cycle that is completely focused on entrepreneurial resilience in times of crisis in Africa. And it is co-designed with our partners. So it will start on the 7th of July. You can register, it's open, and it's free, and it's completely digital. It's gonna be both in French and English. The purpose and what we are aiming to do is to strengthen the capacities through knowledge sharing, skill building, and content enhancing that enhance resilience, basically. The second component of the Resilience Summer School is the hashtag Meet an Entrepreneur weekly meetings. It is an experience sharing session. It's basically peer-to-peer sharing sessions dedicated to the winners of the challenge of the 1000, and that's not open to everyone. The challenge of the 1000 was launched last year, so we launched it in November 2019 with the Africa Friends Summit that was meant to be held in June 2020 in Bordeaux.
Yeah.
And it was completely dedicated to innovation entrepreneurship with big corporations and startups. And Digital Africa was operating, we were managing basically the digital innovation part of the summit, which was divided in different cities. And we were operating the Challenge of 1000, which was a program by the French government meant to bring 1000 entrepreneurs to France, African entrepreneurs to France, to showcase their solutions and be connected to business opportunities. That was the program. With the COVID situation, everything shifted. So that's how the Digital Africa Campus would work. So we needed and we wanted to create this space where the winners of the challenge, the 1000 entrepreneurs that have been selected, could gather, learn together, adapt, and be accompanied and still be connected, together, and to opportunities and to mentors, etc. So that's a specific program dedicated to the 1000 entrepreneurs that have been selected all over Africa. And yeah, it's going to be both in French and English as well. And yeah, and they're going to be connected to each other. And for the rest, all entrepreneurs can just register to the masterclass cycle, and that's only on the website that has been shared. I will share the other website, the Resilience website.
Okay, so this is open for all entrepreneurs in Africa?
Yeah, masterclasses, definitely.
Okay.
And that's the first cycle, so we will probably have others. So we will have the feedback loop going, and then we will improve for the next round, etc., until we make this Digital Africa campus happen. But these are the pilots, the pilot angles of this of the
so our viewers out there, you heard it for yourself. There's Resilient Summer Camp is starting. Please check out the website for Digital Africa. Then you can also it's open for all entrepreneurs within the African continent. Soumeya, the last one for you. Koffi is talking about Germany. You're also talking about from a French angle. But the beneficiaries are all in Africa at the end of the day. How do we converge? How do we merge all these things so that we are able, so that the focus is not in terms of what is coming from Germany or what's coming from France, but more in terms of what do the startups or the entrepreneurs in Africa benefit? From your own opinion, what more needs to be done within the ecosystem in terms of partnerships?
So we have been thinking a lot about this and figure out ways of reacting and interacting. Digital Africa is a French initiative initially, but it is a global initiative that is aimed at serving African entrepreneurs, which is very different. It's our partners are African, but also European and also American and Asians. I mean, we're not focused on one. I mean, one of our partners is the Global Entrepreneurship Network. It's based in the US, and we have this Creative Business Network. They are based in Denmark, in Copenhagen. We are partners with GIZ and Make IT. They are in Germany. We are partners with we talk about Startup Genome. They are based in Silicon Valley, and I don't think we can think of the initiative as the French perspective one only. It's not. I mean, nothing like Digital Africa has been done before. We are in unknown ground. It's very new and very different. Our network of partners is mostly African organizations or international organizations, and also French ones, because they have been very active in there. We are not focused only on Francophone Africa. We are present through our partners in almost all countries now, 52. So it's Yeah, I would say that the way of doing partnerships and how we can shift the perspective from repeating the cycle that has been repeated before. How can we do things differently today? And it's with interacting with people that are not on the pipe. So we talk a lot when we were this morning with the team, we were just talking as Digital Africa as a pipe of pipes. This platform logic, like we gather the pipelines that had been, all were born everywhere, and we become the pipe of pipes. And we do not do it as appropriation or anything else, but really in this new culture of collaboration, building content together and making visible all the initiatives that are making change. So yeah, it is a delicate question. It is, I'm guessing it's still a work in progress, but in this last year, we have been doing a lot of progress, and what's coming is going to be very exciting, I think, on that end.
Okay. Thank you very much. Koffi, thank you for joining in. Soumeya, thank you for joining. To our viewers who watched, thank you for the interactive questions as well. And Sam, I want to hold you up to the challenge that you gave us, that we must bring stories from people that have benefited from watching Afrolynk Expert Live, so that we become an impact venture, like what we say we are as Afrolynk, that we're an impact venture. We should be measured by the impact that we make. So to our guests tonight, our experts, thank you very much. And we always, as Afrolynk, we say we don't compete, we collaborate. Until next time, to our viewers, thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Cheers.
you very much.
Thank you, Kambirai. Thank you, Koffi. Bye.
Thank you, Soumeya. Bye.